Today we're going to talk about your small intestines. That is the organ of discernment. It relates to your abdominal muscles, your quadriceps, and it decides what's good for you and what's bad for you. And if any of that gut lining is compromised, those related muscles might be compromised, and your ability to assimilate your vitamins and assimilate your lessons in life might be compromised. So let's talk about how to strengthen your small intestine. Your gut health or your small intestine health is crucial for proper vitamin uptake. If you have a compromised gut lining, then you might have what's called leaky gut, and that creates inflammation in the entire system. See, we have these microvilli on the inside of our small intestine. This creates more surface area, and they're like tiny hairs with itty bitty holes on them designed for the right size, just the right size to absorb those tiny little nutrients. And conditions like celiac disease or gluten intolerance we see nowadays can come along and damage these little hairs, creating bigger holes in the small intestine. And then more like macronutrients are getting into the bloodstream instead of specific nutrients. The body knows exactly what to do. It knows what's a nutrient and what's not. It knows what's good for you and what's not good for you. But if you have that compromised gut lining, it's getting confused. And this may play a role in your decisions. You might actually get confused and say, well, I'm confused of what's right and what's wrong anymore, simply because this gut lining is messing with your brain. We've got this gut-brain connection. Yes, your vagus nerve talks to your brain more than your brain talks to your gut. And the majority of our happy chemicals are made in our gut. So when we have a healthy gut lining, we're breaking down our nutrients properly and everything's actually fermenting properly along the right chain, then we're making the right bacteria. But sometimes we have too much bacteria in the small intestine. This is called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, where we've got fermentation of foods early in the line. That should be happening in the large intestine, but not so much in the small intestines. So easy way to get over that actually is just cut way back on your carbohydrate intake and maybe even some plants that are irritating to that gut lining, especially gluten, especially GMO gluten nowadays. They found that if you put pesticide in a food that's designed to blow up the bug's stomach when they eat it, it might also do the same thing to humans. This is what we're seeing nowadays. A lot of gluten intolerance creating that gut lining issue. If you cut back on a lot of that gluten, you just might see a difference in that gut lining, or at least try some heirloom grains that aren't so GMO. Also, collagen is a really good thing. You could add zinc, you could add collagen, you could add licorice root, L-glutamine. L-reuteri is a specific bacteria that would help with the SIBO actually. And then you want to actually starve that bacteria by not feeding it sugar and carbohydrates that quickly turn to sugar. It's like feeding yeast, and it just keeps getting out of hand. So limit that stuff and maybe even fast and give your gut a little bit of a chance to catch up. If you're constantly berating it with more and more food, it doesn't really have a chance to build its own cells with the vitamins that you're taking. So hopefully we get that gut lining better integrity. We have healthy little hairs in there, so we're actually absorbing all that stuff. Big conditions that you'll see when you do have that leaky gut: skin conditions. See this all the time. Our skin is a quick reflection of our gut lining. That's a skin inside the intestines. This is the skin on the outside of the body. If you've got inflammation, like I said, from that leaky gut throughout the system, then you've got to detox that stuff in some way, and it's supposed to go through the digestive tract. If it's not, it's in the bloodstream. It needs to come out through our other detox organ, which is our skin. You'll see that in the form of eczema and psoriasis. That's why we come back to the gut lining all the time. Small intestines are your organ for discernment for your nutrients and assimilation. If you're not assimilating your vitamins, you're going to end up being malnourished, even though you think you're eating a lot of food, but you're not absorbing those vitamins properly. All right, some related muscles to the small intestines that we've discovered through the art of kinesiology. They share similar reflex systems throughout the lymphatic and acupuncture lines, and also similar nerve tracts. So the quadriceps, hip flexor, and knee extensor. You need strong quadriceps. The stronger your legs, the stronger your foundation. Also, your core muscles. The majority of your core muscles relate to the small intestines, your rectus abdominis, your obliques, and the transverse abdominis muscles. These all depend on the strength of your small intestines, and your small intestines depend on the strength of these muscles as well. I found that for myself when I've actually concentrated on strengthening my obliques on the side here the past few years. I really wanted these guys to get strong so that my diaphragm would sit in a better position here. For so long, I thought I had torn a piece of my diaphragm here, and it actually was a torn oblique muscle. When I strengthened that and began to work with some reflexes to help heal that area, it got stronger and the rib flare went down. My diaphragm sits in a better angle. And I had another video about the stomach. You can tell that the stomach and the diaphragm are linked because of that sphincter valve in the diaphragm. When that's working properly with a strong diaphragm, then there's no longer an acid reflux or hiatal hernia tendency. So strengthening these obliques helped my digestion. So they ended up also in turn helping the small intestine as well. So strengthening the obliques and the rectus abdominis and the quadriceps will also help the small intestine. So a few ways that we can activate those muscles and help also activate the actual organ, the small intestines, are through some specific neurovascular reflexes. You can see we have some right on the rib margin. So right where your abdominals would attach, all along the rib margin here, you can rub sort of comfortably uncomfortable. We want to move that stuff along. If it's tender, use enough pressure to move the skin over top the muscle. This is where the lymphatic tracts are for these. So all along that rib margin. There's also some, you see now on the inner thigh. Most people don't think about that. We've got to get on the inner thigh here, inner thigh. So massaging these guys. And also on the low back at L5. See right down in here, and there's more on that mid back area. So stimulating those lymphatic reflexes and help lymph flow to those muscles and to the actual small intestine at the same time. Okay, of course we want to work with the meridian. The small intestine meridian actually starts on the outside nail bed of your pinky and travels down the side of your hand, along your forearm, around the elbow, the tricep, up the back of the shoulder blade, up the top of the shoulder, side of the neck, right onto the cheek, and ends right here in front of your ear. So there's a few places that you can tap. You can see in EFT, we start on small intestine number 3. This is called the psychological reversal point. So tapping on that, remember, this is about discernment of what's right and wrong. Sometimes you're confused of what's right and wrong. So this is always our starting point for EFT. We actually do our setup phrases right here. Or you can tap on the other end of it, which is the other meridian end right in front of the ear. You can tap on that point as well. There's another great point that's right in the middle of your shoulder blade, right back here. If you can reach it or get somebody else to rub on, that's a good emotion point as well. You can also just swipe that meridian in the direction of its natural travel. So you're pushing chi down that river. Doing that stimulates more chi movement for the meridian, stimulate more chi for the muscles and the organ at the same time. Okay, so in conclusion, your small intestine, that organ of discernment, it gets to pick and choose what's good for you and what is not good for you. But you've got to have a healthy gut lining so that it can actually do that for you. Then you can assimilate your vitamins. You can assimilate your lessons in life. Remember that? You'll get your lessons in life instead of having to repeat them, and really figure out what's right and wrong, what's good for you, what's not good for you. You get to decide that then. So strengthen that small intestine, make good decisions, and we will see you in the next video.